Welcome you all back to the social class, and you all know that we are discussing the questions that are very important for our quarterly examination. Yes. So we have seen the questions from French Revolution, we have seen the questions from physical features of India and India size and location. Now we are moving into a new thing, that is civics. I'll tell you in detail how to answer these type of questions, which is really a hotspot questions. How should you write? All these details I'll tell you. We are going to see the chapter, that is what is democracy and why democracy. So if you see the content, you can see that in the beginning they might have given you about what is democracy, and they would have compared it with China, Poland and Ghana. A place, okay. So these things are being compared with the democratic form of government, okay. A child, which is a place in where you would have heard about Pinocchio, who will be a good person who wanted to do lot of things for the people, where he will not be considered as an important person because of the militaryship which was existing in China. Okay, so these stories you might have studied, your teacher when they were teaching, they might have taught you. Now I'll get into the questions how it will be coming. Yes. So what is democracy? So common definition is that where it allows the citizens to select its own representative. Okay, that is called as the common definition of democracy. Then we have seen different definitions. Why or how these definitions are being framed, and you can see that the different definition that is being given. I given an example of a school where a teacher will not allow the student to ask doubts. Do you think that is a democratic form of a classroom? No. Where a child is being provided with lot of information and where answers being given for their own questions and queries, there you can find a democratic form of a class which is going on. But here, if a monotonous, a single way of speech, if it is going on, definitely it will be a dictatorship form of a class only. Okay, so that is also being described in it, and you can also see that they have given so many stories about it. So the common definition of democracy is about the selection of their own representative, or can be said as choosing their own representatives. That is called as democratic form of government without any discrimination of caste, color and creed. So you can find that there will be a proper way of election or proper way of channel will be there through which the democratic leader may come into rule. Okay, so that is the thing. Then you can find a simple definition which is also given in our book based on the democracy. So explain about the single definition of the democracy. So what is the simple definition? Just I'll read for you. Listen. Democracy is a form of government in which the ruler are elected by the people. So in a country where an election should be held and a proper counting, and it should be a free and fair election, right? So then he should be a ruler who is being supported by everyone. When he is becoming a ruler, that is called as a democratic form of a government. So you can find lot of example that is being given. So this definition allows us to separate the democratic and the non-democratic country. So where a single person, an independent ruler is there, it is a dictatorship or monarchical form of government or a kingship rule. All these things are the names which can be given for the non-democratic form of a nation. Yes. So in an army, like the army rule of Myanmar, examples, these are things which you are supposed to write while you are writing, supporting that simple definition of democracy. Okay, if they are asking you to write in 3 mark, the army rule in Myanmar and not elected by the people. So in Myanmar, what is happening? It is not conducting any type of election. So you can find that only a single person is being made. So can we call that as a democratic form of government? No, not at all. It is not a democratic form of government. Okay, and those who happen to control the army, they will be considered as an army rule or militaryship rule, which can be said. Then you can, you might have heard about Pinocchio. In the beginning he told, he is a person who belonged to the dictatorship form of government, but where he was being transformed, where he was being thrown out of his posting and a dictatorship form of government, and military ruler has come into rule. So that is how it was happening even in Myanmar also. So these things you have to describe and write, my dear students. Then what happened in Nepal? The king of Nepal and the Saudi Arabia rule or not, because they are not called as a democratic form of government, because you can find a kingship rule was existing in Nepal. So even in Saudi Arabia you can find that they were not allowed to select their own representatives or choose their own people as a leader. So these areas you can find that there is no proper democratic form of government is existing. So what is a simple definition where you can find that the democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people. They should be elected by, or chosen by the people only. So this is the simple definition which you can explain with these examples for 3 mark as well as for 5 mark, my dear students. Okay, so these are the keywords which you are supposed to use. And next thing is about the features of democracy. So if we see features of democracy, we have few things which is being describing the features. So in a democratic form of government, as we saw previously also, it is a government which allows the ruler to be selected or elected by the common people. Yes, so those things. We have a common criteria, a common aspect which has to be present in the form of a feature for the government. That is, a ruler should be there, right? Without a ruler, a nation cannot be there, and it should have people. Common people should be there because they are the person who are selecting or representing their own representatives. Yes. Then you can find that election should be held. Without election process, it cannot be called as a democratic form of government. Yes. Even though if certain places like China, they are conducting elections regularly, but you can find that their election is not in a proper manner. Because they are not called as a democratic form of government. They are called as communist form of government. Why? They have parties among them where a single party only will be becoming the ruling party. Okay, so it cannot be called as a democratic form of government even though election is being held. So when you come to 10th standard, you will know all these things. So simple thing, what is needed, what are the features means, a ruler should be there, election should be held, and common people should be there for their selection, and form of government. So there should be a proper planning of the government should also exist. That is called as the form of government. So these are considered as the major feature of democracy. So how a ruler should be? So ruler should be a person who is being elected by the common people, where he will be able to have an attitude to manage or attitude to deal with the problems that is existing in the nation and to bring a new solution, programs, policies for the common people. This is how a ruler should be. Yes, and an election should be held every 5 years once, and these elections should be held in a free and fair manner without any malpractices. Okay, so this is how we are supposed to explain and write when you give side heading like ruler, election. So next thing, if you see people, common people or the citizens who are responsible for selecting their own representatives in the form of their own representative to solve their own issues and problems. Okay, then form of government finally. So the form of government can be elected or a government which can be formed in a proper manner to help the common peoples to pursue their own schemes, policies which are being existing and promoted by the government. Okay, so this is called as the form of government. So if they ask you in 3 mark also, what are the features of democracy, you can explain and write with a side heading. And if you are writing for the 5-mark questions as well as 3-mark questions. You can explain the same manner with side headings. Okay, my dear students? Okay. So next thing, major decisions by the elected leaders. So if you see in the areas like most of the places, the election leader will be elected leader. He will be the person who will take the majority of the decision. Whether it is true or whether it is correct or wrong, my dear students, it is wrong, because definitely the person is being sent as a representative, where he should consult the common people, consult his own fellow beings, and then take a decision. That is called as the democratic form of government. But when an independent leader takes the decision, it is not a democratic form of government at all. So if you see in Pakistan, the Parvez Musharraf is a person, you can write example this. Okay, Parvez Musharraf is a person of military coup. Military coup means a troop. Okay, in October 1999, he is being overthrown by a democratic elected government and declaring themselves as a chief executive. So he is declaring himself as a chief executive and becoming the ruler of the Pakistan. Okay, later you can find the change being designed in the presidentialship, and in 2020 you can find that they are framing a referendum where they have increased the power of the king, and where they did not give any importance for the common people. And the Pakistan media, human rights organization and democratic activists said that the referendum has no malpractices, and they are saying that it is existing in such a way that where you cannot find an fault also. But the referendum was really not favoring the common peoples, because it was done by a dictator person, Parvez Musharraf. Okay, so they say that it is really a hard thing for the people to follow. So this is an example which you can write. Then they will ask you another thing, whether the free and fair elections being conducted or not. So yes, you can write in such a way that supporting, you can even write about opposing also. So I'll tell you how to write for supporting and how to write for opposing. Yes, elections are being held in a free and fair manner. Yes, elections are being held in a free and fair manner. So example you can give about India, where you can find lot of thing that is existing, that as we saw in the electoral politics chapter, where they have a code of conduct which has to be followed by the people who are contesting in the election, and we have separate people to look into the malpractices that has been done by them. So you can find that the elections are being held in a free and fair manner without any malpractices, you can explain. And if you are against it, no, the elections are not held in a free and fair manner. An example, you can take China. China is a place where they will be conducting elections regularly 5 years once, but here you can find a single party, that is National People Congress Party, has the power to appoint the president of the country also. So how many of them are contesting an election? You can find that Chinese Communist Party only will be becoming the ruling party. The remaining are being small parties. 8 small parties are existing, but only when they form alliance with the Chinese Communist Party, they will be becoming a ruling party. Otherwise, they will be called as just the party which will be existing. So in these areas, regular election is being held, but you can find that the elections are being not held in a free and fair manner, because all the processes that are needed for a democratic form of government is being followed. But when it comes to the ruling aspect, it is not the wish of the common people. The people has not selected their own representative. So the lack of these things leads to the non-democratic form of government which is prevailing in China. So this is how you can write. Okay, my dear students. Then one person, one vote. So one person, one vote. What is this one person, one vote? You can find definitely the voting right. Universal adult franchise is being granted to us, right? Previously it was not existing for everyone. Because of lot of struggle and other things, people were able to get universal adult franchise. Okay, so because of this, they made that vote, one person, one vote and one value. That means if I am a person, for me only one vote will be there, and that vote is a very valuable vote. Okay, even if it is a single vote, it is a very valuable vote. If you see, Saudi Arabia, women do not have the right to vote. Only previous year they got the voting right. Okay, for them and all, it is really a valuable thing. And next thing, if you see about Russia, minority, they found it difficult to get the voting rights. Okay, and Fiji is an area where you can find it's an election system in such a way that voting is being indulged only for few section of the peoples, and has more value than of the any other of Indian Fijians. So the people of Indian Fijian is not represented over there. They are not given any voting right at all. But you can find that Indian Fijis, they were being given more values for voting. So each area they are differentiating the values of the vote. So this should not exist, because all the votes are being equally posted, right? So they has to be given an equal value. So for everyone, every vote is an equal vote. In a democracy, each adult has or must vote, and each vote must have one very important value. This is what is about the one person, one vote and one value. We see the next thing, it is the rules of the representation. So this thing I will discuss in the next class, my dear students. So remaining will continue. Okay, thank you.